Perfect. Well, Ron, I appreciate the opportunity here. And so, for everybody's benefit, I'm Jerry McGuire. I'm one of the senior account executives here at Huntress. And I'll just get this out of the way. Everyone's probably thinking, with a name like that, why is this guy in IT and not a sports agent? So I totally understand that. Could be making a lot of money in that space. But on a serious note, thank each and every one of you for your time today and hearing a little bit about what Huntress is all about. So, just dive into it. Here are our three co-founders. All three of these guys were former offensive cybersecurity attackers for the NSA. They had a ton of credentials, both when they served in the military and as civilians. And as you see up there at the top right, they were actually on a team that won DEF CON Capture the Flag, which is basically like the World Series of hacking. So a lot of credentials, a lot of good press for these guys out there in the cybersecurity world. A little bit more about our organization as a whole is we are definitely a vendor on the move. We got our Series B back in June of $40 million, which has definitely allowed us to grow both internally and externally. So as you see all the way to the right there, we have about 850,000 agents deployed throughout the globe. But we really want to be known as an educational vendor. So we really want to help the community understand what's going out there, even when sometimes it's not necessarily something that Huntress does in their world today. So if you remember the Kaseya issue that happened a few months back, Huntress was really the first vendor on the scene there to help the community understand exactly what had happened and how best to respond. Our co-founders, each the second Tuesday of every month, actually hold what's called Tradecraft Tuesday, where that's all about education. It's about breaking news in the cybersecurity space, discussing techniques that help organizations be prepared from attacks. It's not a Huntress pitch. Most of the time, you don't even hear us pitch or talk about our solution, exactly what we do. It's just more overall what's going out there in the community as a whole. And then also in late October, we're going to hold what's called Hack It, which is a 2 free-day educational training that's all about helping IT professionals understand new tactics that are out there. All of that can be found on our website. Go to huntresslabs.com. Feel free to check any of that out. Like I said, that Hack It's going to be a completely free session helping people learn more and more about cybersecurity. All right, so let's get into some fun parts here about what we really do here at Huntress. So the three things that I'm going to want you to take away from today is that we hunt for persistent threats that get past preventive tools. Yes, preventive tools are definitely needed. They belong in your stack. But as attackers are becoming more advanced, what they're learning is how to get more past those preventive tools. That's where we come in. We can sit side by side with anything else that's in your existing stack. So whatever firewalls you're running, whatever next-gen AV, DNS filtering, etc., we can sit side by side with any of those solutions. And number three, we're simple and affordable. We get it, right? In IT, we're looked at as a cost center, not a profit center in a lot of cases. So, you're looking for, hey, what solutions can really bring a lot of bang to the buck for my organization? And then we're going to talk about the simplicity piece. We're going to try to remove a lot of the heavy burden off of your team and really be that proactive threat hunters that most organizations just don't have. So your challenge is simple, right? And this is meant to be an eye chart on purpose, right? It's kind of meant to be a little funny because the challenge is not easy by any means for all the folks on this call and all the organizations that are out there. You have to stay on top of ever-changing technologies, and this is just cybersecurity, right? This doesn't include all the other pieces that go along within your IT environment. But you also then have to communicate to the board, to the CFO, why you need additional budget, right? You have to understand what each of these vendors do, and maybe even more importantly, what they don't do, right? Where do you still have gaps in your cybersecurity stack? So it's not an easy task at all. And I didn't put this up there so you would ask yourself why you got in IT. It is meant to be a little bit funny, but it does give you a good landscape of everything that you guys have to evaluate from a cybersecurity perspective. The good news is that, right, it's not just going out there and listen to each vendor spin and why their solution is the bee's knees and solves all the world's problems. We don't pretend to be that. We're not a silver bullet, nor do we ever pretend to be. But the good news is there are some frameworks for organizations to follow to really understand how their stack should be built. The problem here is that for a lot of companies, this, like I said, they just can't afford this. This is more for what those 1%ers out there should look like that have unlimited budget. The Amazons, the Googles of the world, they can have a stack like this. They can manage it. They can go out there and afford, a highly compensated security experts to manage some of these spaces. But most organizations can't do that. So what do those organizations look like? So what they look like is more like this, where a lot of their IT budget is going to the prevention and the backup and restore. And of course, you need those areas. Totally get it. But as you can see, for a lot of them, there's a very big gap in that detect and respond. Those IT teams are basically going to bed each night praying that nothing gets past their preventative tools. Some have a false perspective that their preventative tools alone are enough, and they're going to do enough that to keep their organization secure. But you have to ask yourself, right? Do you have only locks on your front doors and your windows? I assume most people on this call have home alarm systems, cameras, etc. So why do some people take a layered approach to their home security system and then kind of rely on prevention alone in the IT environment? So you got to think, if something ever gets past your prevention tools, well, Jerry, we can use backup and restore tools. And of course, those, like I said, should be part of your layered stack approach. The problem with that thinking, though, is that if you don't have anything in detect and respond, most of the time when an attacker breaks in, they then want to gain their persistence that allows them to stay in their environment for over 100 plus days before they drop their ransomware. So basically, they have free reign into your environment for that 100 plus days to do their discovery, look around, determine what they really want to pull from your organization before you even know that they're in there. And you're probably putting the math together, right? I mean, backup and restore tools for the most part are only set to 60 or 90 days. So if an attacker wants to stay in for 100 plus, they basically are trying to stay in longer than what those tools are set for. So if an organization says, you know what, we're not going to pay the ransom, we'll just back up and restore, unfortunately, all they're doing is just reinfecting their system again. So it's those types of things where organizations have to understand, even if it's not something with the Huntress, places or vendors or tools need to be put into that detect and respond space. Other organizations have a gap there because that's where true security expertise is required. So let's look at that. So if there's ever a compromise, meaning something has gotten past the prevention tools, there's less of a reliance on technology and more of a reliance on people. And kind of going back to that home alarm, right? I mean, let's kind of use that as the example here. If someone breaks in, the alarm system goes off. The technology has done its job. But is that what's truly getting the attacker out of the environment? It's not. It's the people. It's the police in this specific example. So my point being here is that, again, solutions that use software alone are needed. They're good tools for the most part, but prevention tools alone cannot be the only answer. So what you're looking at here is that we all need to take a proactive approach to cybersecurity, right? Let's not let the attackers be the only one that's being aggressive. Every organization has to assume when, not if. So at the very beginning, I told you we would define persistence, really understand why it matters and why it matters to the attacker. So let's look at that. This is MITRE's definition of persistence, and it's basically where the adversary is trying to maintain their foothold even through password changes or restarts, okay? Understand that we have, in our environment today, all of us have persistence. A very simplistic way to look at persistence, to kind of understand it, is your calendar and your clock. Right? When that was built, that is built with a persistence mechanism that allows it to stay in your environment every single time you restart or change your password. Great, that's what you want it to do, right? You don't want to have to download something every single day for your calendar and clock to appear. So kind of think of that, right? That's what that persistence mechanism is allowing it to do. It's allowing it to basically stay in your environment every single time. The problem is attackers have understood or learned how to hijack or replace legitimate code to create malicious activities. And that's where we proactively hunt for persistence with our people. So when you look at it from the attacker's journey, right? I mean, this is a full-time industry now. I saw a statistic that at the end of 2021, we're expecting cybersecurity crime to be $6 trillion. Put that in perspective. In 2021, Walmart and Amazon combined did 1 trillion. So we're looking at an industry that's 6 times larger than Walmart and Amazon combined. Unfortunately, what's happening is these attackers are learning more and more every day. They're becoming much more sophisticated and advanced. But like any industry, there are certain standards or practices that they have to follow. So in this case, right, you kind of go through the attacker's journey. They need to do their homework. They need to get social media information. They need to get emails. And then once they do that, they want to break in, right? They want to get their initial access. And they do that through open RDPs, unpatched vulnerabilities, or the ever popular phishing. So if you stay with that phishing example, once they get someone to click on something that they shouldn't have, the next important part of that attacker's journey is gaining that persistence. And kind of think of it as that back door. It allows them to come and go as they please. So if you remember when I mentioned the 100+ days before they drop their ransomware, persistence is actually what's allowing them to come and go whenever they want, all without you knowing that they're in the environment. So when you look at it from MITRE's attack matrix, and you kind of see where persistence fits within the different techniques, and these basically go from left to right, right? So you have the initial access, you then have execution, and then you have persistence. If you look at the prevention tools, basically those are only helping in these two areas left of persistence. But what about everything to the right of persistence? Well, that's where we feel like our solution brings the biggest bang for the buck. Because basically, if you stop persistence, what you're doing is you're breaking the attacker's chain. So all of these other techniques to the right, they cannot be executed on unless that attacker had persistence. And so I've mentioned that they're hiding in plain sight. And how are they doing that? And what they're doing is they're hiding their persistence in the Microsoft Autoruns. So what you're doing here is that understanding we are looking for persistence that the attackers are hiding in the Microsoft operating system. Good time for everyone to understand we're only applicable on Windows devices, meaning workstations and servers. Mac is on the roadmap. We expect it in sometime 2022. But here's where our people, our threat ops team, really remove the burden from your IT team and act as an extension of your organization. They are proactively doing this hunting on your behalf. So we understand anytime you're looking at potentially working with a new vendor, two things usually come to top of mind. How is deployment going to be? And are the employees going to be calling, complaining about a slowdown in their environment? So let's quickly address some of the operational concerns and then show you again our solution a little bit more in action. If you ever want to work with Huntress, you would deploy our agent. It's about 11 megs, so fairly lightweight. We can deploy GPO, RMM tools. We have support pages really well written out. Deployment's typically going to take you about 20 minutes. Depending how we deploy, employees probably won't even have to restart their systems. Our agent does the initial scan, right? So if you remember that Autorun screen that I showed you, that initial scan is going to take about 2 to 3% CPU. Our software, we do use software as part of our solution. By no means is that the main attraction. That's our people, our threat ops. But what our solution does is that looks through all those Autoruns. If our software, if we've seen it before, based on our own research, we don't use like a Cisco Talos or anything. It's a great solution, great tool out there. We base everything based on our own internal research. If we've seen it before and know it's good, it's a green check mark. Everything else, all of those other Autoruns, meaning we already know it's malicious because we've seen it before and know it's bad, or we've never seen it and we need to research it, that's where it gets kicked over to our people, our threat ops team, to comb through and determine what it's trying to do. But just finalizing the operational piece is that after that initial scan, our agent wakes up every 15 minutes and does another scan. If anything has been added or changed, it goes right back through that same process of software and our people. If nothing has been changed, it goes to sleep. 15 minutes later, wakes back up, does another scan. If we do find persistence, what's going to happen is you will receive an incident report to whatever email or ticketing system that you want set up with clear and easy remediation steps. So let's look at that. So this is some screenshots of what would be an incident report that you would find within our dashboard, or like I said, when it gets sent over to your ticketing email. But what we're going to show you here is clearly what we identify. In this case, we found TrickBot. We're going to show you exactly which system is impacted, any security products that are installed on that system, the foothold that's actually allowing it to stay in the environment, and then the remediation instructions. But if you remember at the very beginning, right, I said we want to be a simplistic vendor. How are we doing that? What we're doing is we're adding an easy button up here where it says Review Remediation Plan. You would be able to click on that Review Remediation Plan. All of those steps are clearly listed out. If you or whoever on the team has administration rights approves it, you click Approve, and our agent actually does the work on your behalf. So we're not a noisy solution. We're only going to notify you when we actually find persistence. And when there is persistence out there in the environment, it's a 2-click remediation process. So pretty easy fit. So we're a perfect fit for organizations that have a gap in their detect and respond, or potentially they have tools that are too noisy, too expensive. As Ron said, you'll have access to all of my email information, my phone number. Feel free, even if it's just a general conversation of what's in your stack today, be more than happy to talk about that and help you understand where there may be some gaps, even if it's not just in the detect and response space. So all of you are probably thinking about this right now, but the question to consider is, if your preventative tool does not alert you to an issue, how or can your team actually find it or stop it? And for most organizations, the answer truly to that is they can't. So, 100% of our reports are going to be things that get past those preventive tools that we are helping identify. Now, just a quick few, because I only got you for a few more minutes. I've touched on the persistent footholds. A few other potential, things that are part of our solution is we have ransomware canaries. Now, we are not the only company that does ransomware canaries. Where we do differ is we don't use canaries in the name. Our files are lightweight, they're hidden. What's really cool is we're going to be doing right here in about a month host isolation. So really what we're trying to do here is help you identify patient zero and stop the spread as soon as possible. We also have external Recon. This is basically a port scanning tool that helps you identify external available ports. This part of our solution is really to identify low-hanging fruit. So if there's a port 3389 or something like that that's open, helps you understand, hey, probably want to close that as soon as possible. And then we have managed AV. This is really exciting stuff here is that what we're doing is we're actually allowing for the management piece of Windows Defender. So this is a screenshot of AV Test. It's a free third-party site. They do tests of different next-gen AV solutions every 2 to 3 months and give them a grade of 1 to 6 in different categories. If you look at Windows Defender, it has 6s across the board. It's a darn good next-gen AV solution. What had really stunk about it was the management piece, and that's what we're solving for on the Huntress dashboard. You can actually set exclusions, scans, signatures. So this is a great idea for folks that either aren't in love with their next-gen AV solution. They know that, hey, listen, we need a detect and respond tool in place or a vendor to work with. We just don't have the budget. Hey, what we've seen is some organizations remove their current next-gen AV solution, use the Windows Defender moving forward because it's free, and then allow the Huntress dashboard to be the management tool of it, and that all comes at that same price. So when talking about pricing, and Ron, I know I'm right on the time here, so I'll finish here in about a minute. You look at a 100-seat deal, you're looking at $4 per agent per month. So $400 for the monthly cost. And if you really want to look at it from an ROI perspective, this is a downtime calculator. This shows you for that same 100-seat organization, downtime alone, not even including the IR cost, potential cybersecurity insurance implication, reputation hit, so forth and so on. This would cost this organization $180,000. So if we typically stop one incident ever, we pay for ourselves for about 30 years. The call to action is simple. If you want to check us out, we have a free 21-day trial for unlimited devices. We do limit it to 3 higher critical incidents. As you can imagine, our threat ops folks are highly paid. That's why we limit it. At the same time, if we find 3, you're probably going to be asking how to buy Huntress as soon as possible. So that's it, guys and girls. I appreciate the time today. We really thank you for listening in and understanding what Huntress brings to the table. Ron, I'm right up against it, but if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those.
One quick thing. There's a gentleman, William, who asked a question about risk associated with removing malware. I'm going to handle it offline, but I just want to make sure the issues you're confronting, again, this is a government, public sector audience. The problem is in all these threats, it doesn't matter if you're attacking a bank or a university or government agency. This is a horizontal issue. I wanted to bring you on board because so many government agencies are affected with this, and they're really caught between a rock and a hard place because they've got real requirements to serve their citizens. Is that correct? There's nothing.
100%, Ron. I will say that the majority of the requests, the demonstrations that we do are for local municipalities. And the reason why is that unfortunately, as we're learning as a country and as a society, we all know this, but that's the way that really attack our infrastructure. So, I live down here in the Tampa Bay area. You guys probably saw that there was a hit to the water main issue or water issue here not too long ago. We've helped other large municipalities with some ransomware attacks. So yes, we're a very nice fit for local municipalities, and it's a very big portion of our business today.